Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Batra Daf Samechim Lamud Aleph 63a1. We're starting a few lines down, the two dots where it says Pshita. So the Gemara says Pshita, it is obvious. Okay? The Gemara says, Amar Yachlok Ploni Benechasai Palga. If you have a Shriv Mira, person that is on his deathbed, and he comes and he says, this person's going to come and he's going to take half of his properties. Because Yachlok means to divide. So Tenu Chelek Leploni Benechasai, Mai. But right, so then, okay, it makes sense. Why? Because, right, Ilachlok means you're going to divide. But when he says Tenu Chelek, give a portion, right, to Ploni, right, what's going to happen in such a case? What's halacha? So Amar Ravina Barkisi says Ravina Barkisi, Tashama, we're going to try to bring a proof. The Tanya was we learned in a Braita. Haomer Tenu Chelek Leploni Bebo, Sumchus Omer En Lo Pachot Merevia. So he comes and he says, give. Right, that means basically what you're going to do is you're going to give in the property in the bor, right? So you're going to give him a chelek, right, in the bor. Sumchus coming and he says, "Em pachom rabia." There's not going to be less than a quarter, right, which is in the bor. So lechavit, if it's going to be in order to fill up a barrel, so he says, "Em pachom shminit." It's going to be less than an eighth. Meaning, basically, what we're trying to say is that there's going to be a minimum amount that you have to give. So therefore, the safek in front of us is the kavanah to give him a mashchetzi, right? Or it's just like the minimum amount to give liktera and pachomish namasad. So it's going to be less than a 12th, right, of the water that's going to go inside. Right? Litafiach, if it's going to be a small utensil, and pachomish shazar, it's not going to be less than 16. Okay? So again, this is what we have the doubt. So now it says like this. Ben Levi shemachar sadeh Yisrael. What if you have a Ben Levi that he sells to a Yisrael? Ve'amar, and he comes and he says, right, as follows. He comes and he says, Al minat lemaaser. What does that mean, al minat lemaaser? So he comes and he says as follows. He says, right, what happens now if he's going to come and he's going to say it's going to be on condition that the maaser rishon comes to him. So imagine, I'm the Levi selling you the property. I said, listen, sell you up, but maaser rishon belongs to me. Right? V'imamar, so he says, Shalom, v'imamar, if he says, liul banai, umet, and then he dies, then the banai. So he has to give it to the children. But if he says, as long as it's in your hands, so now if he comes and he sells it, and then he purchases it again, so that's the way to get out of it. You understood how to get out of it? One more time. He comes and he says, as long as it's yours, I get Maser Rishon. He gets Maser Rishon. Says, as long as it's yours, him and his children. Even if he dies, you have to give it down to the children. How does he get out of it? If he sells it to somebody else, because he said, as long as it's in your hands, what does he do? Sells it to somebody else, and he buys it back from him. So now the original Levi or his children are in it, nobody could take anything anymore. Because now it's a new entity. So that's it. So says the Gemara, but why? Why in the world does this Levi get the Maaser Rishon? The fruits have not come yet. And if the fruits have not come yet, he doesn't acquire it. So says the Gemara, since he told him on condition that Maaser Rishon belongs to me, he left over the Maaser. Okay? Amar Resh Lakish, says Resh Lakish, which means that he left over the Maaser behind for him, and therefore he's allowed to do that. Okay? He comes and he says this. Amar Resh Lakish, says Resh Lakish, Zot omeret. So it means to say, imagine a person comes and he sells a house to his friend, but he tells him on condition that the gag, right, which basically is the roof, belongs to me. Right? So it belongs to him, really, because that's what he sold it. Okay? So 63b. What is halacha to do with? Let's say he wants to stick out like pegs on the top in order to hang things. He's allowed to. But since it belongs to him, it belongs to him. Papa comes and he says, no. Since he has the roof, he has the airspace. He could build another floor on top. Right? He's allowed to. So I understand. I know that's why it says zotomeret. Zotomeret, what we're trying to say, that means to say that according to Rizvid in Resh Lakish, it belongs to him. But according to Rava, right, Rav Papa, that he comes and he says that the kavanah is that you could build the second floor. What does it mean now, zotomeret? Right? This means to say. What do you mean? Obviously, he's allowed to do that. So Kasha, it's going to be a question against, right, Rav Papa. Because he wants to say that if he left something over, so the kavanah was not to make it even better, so the muzor doesn't mean that. Okay? So he comes and he says, right, that you're right, it's a good question against it. So Amar is Dimi Minarda, it says with Dimi Minarda, Haman the Mizabin Lebete Lechavre, if you sell your house to your friend, Afgad the Kadal, even though you wrote in Umka Viruma, which is basically all the different, the depths and all the things of the widths, he still has to write Kenilach Mitehom Ara Vadrum Rekia. It's from the bottom until the top. Meaning mamash, the airspace, the underground tunnels, everything. That's what my time I was visiting. Umka Viruma Bistama Lokani, Ahani Umka Viruma Umka Viruma. He comes and he says like this. He says, when you say Dum Kaveruma, Bistama, you didn't buy anything. But when you come and you say Kaveruma, what are you trying to say? You're trying to say that it's going to help, whether it's going to be for pits or other things. Why? Then you make that kinyan, but it's only if you actually express it and you say it. So Leba Mesele, why don't we just say that this is a proof to that which we said? These are the things you're going to tell me, Bistama, kind of that you do get the Kaveruma. So why doesn't it help also for the border dut mechilot? We said that it doesn't help. So the Gemara says you didn't write it. De lo katavle. So he says, but I thought we said that you did write it. So he says, this is what we're going to say. Even though you didn't write it, it's like you wrote it. If he wrote it, then he gets it. If he didn't, he doesn't get it. And then we continue with the Tashema. What about now? He didn't sell the Gag, as long as there's a Maakeh, which is going to be 10 Tfachim. If you're going to come and you're going to tell me, Samachdala de Mudalef on the top, 64a on the top. If you're going to tell me now, you do get the Umkavruma, so what do I care now if it's going to be tall, 10 Tfachim? So he comes and he says, if it's 10 Tfachim, it's Chashuv. And if it's Chashuv, it's important, so then you don't get it. Right? Why? Because it's not included in the sale. So Amar Ravina Ravashi says Ravina to Ravashi, Tashma, I'm going to bring another proof. Tamar Shaki says Shaki, Zotomenet means to say, you're going to sell a house to your friend, and you come and you tell him, you're telling you Nashali that the roof is mine. It does belong to him. We said, what's the hilchata? Ravzin says that if you want to take out the zin, you're allowed to take out these pegs and poles and everything, tang up things. And if Papa says, you will build a second floor. If you're going to tell me that you don't acquire it, so what do I need now? Al minat, that it's conditioned that it's mine. You didn't acquire it. So says the Gemara, Ahanile, it helps him. Al minat di nafila de barnele. If it falls, he has to build it again. Meaning that the fact that he says that the roof is mine, it has to always have a roof. And therefore, if it falls, you still have to rebuild it just that way I can have a roof. That's what it helps. And that's what we're going to finish today until the Mishnah. Have a wonderful day.